Since President Trump first announced his candidacy, he has been opposed to immigration, including that of refugees, a stance he has put into action after taking office, announcing in January a ban on the entry of all refugees for 120 days and an indefinite ban on all Syrians. 2 weeks ago, in the latest twist in the saga, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit allowed partial enforcement of the ban. Notably, when Trump talks about refugees, he repeatedly says their ranks are dominated by young men. The concern about dangerous young men has been with us for a while. In 2015, discussing the refugee crisis in Europe, Sen. Ted Cruz, Artex, argued that 77% of those refugees were young men. In the same year, Bill O'Reilly emphasized that he would support admitting refugees into the country if he could add this caveat: no single men. What these politicians are voicing is the American concern that young Muslim men pose security threats. But who are refugees, really? The State Department's Refugee Processing Center finds that, in fact, arrivals of Syrian refugees are about equally divided between men and women. What's more, from January 1 to November 1 of this year, more than half the applicants were children, with 43.4% younger than 14 and 11.9% between the ages of 14 and 20. That composition matters for how Americans think about refugees. Our recent unpublished research suggests that, when encouraged to think about how many refugees are women and children, Americans are less likely to see them as security risks. These findings are consistent with research showing that the way the news media cover debates about Islam, terrorism, or refugee policy profoundly shapes public opinion. Here's how we did our research. We wanted to see how much knowing about refugees' gender and religion influences American support for accepting them into the country. Through Amazon.com's Mechanical Turk service in late October, we conducted an experiment with 1,052 respondents to an opt-in internet survey, who were randomly assigned slightly different versions of questions about the refugee population. The goal was to see how much framing the question in different ways influenced their attitudes. In the baseline version, respondents were told. In 2016 and 2017, the U.S. admitted 85,000 and 53,000 refugees respectively. In 2018, the U.S. plans to admit 45,000 refugees. Respondents in the other groups received the same information but with one of the clauses below added. All respondents were then asked, should the number of refugees entering the U.S. decrease, stay about the same, or increase? This allowed us to see whether attitudes about refugees varied according to the information about gender, children, and religion. Americans look more favorably on accepting refugees who are women and children. Here's what we found. As you can see in the figure below, when we emphasized women and children, people were 7.4% more likely to support increasing the number admitted than those who just got the paragraph without a descriptive phrase. That's a statistically significant difference.